and welcome to Silverstone for the opening rounds of the 2011 Competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Championship. I'm Lloyd Bonson and you join us today to watch the exciting action of classes A and B in the series. I'll hand you over to Richard to talk you through to the grid.
Thanks very much, Lloyd. A warm welcome everybody to a new season of Competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Racing. And we've got some great action lined up for you. John Langridge taking his first pole position, David Elsom alongside, then on row 2 Scott Baines and Nick Tiley. Third row of the grid, Ken Bateman and Zena Cooper. On to the remainder of the grid, we've got Nick Barton and Michelle Edwards on row 4, Keith Chapman and Claire Kemp on row 5, William Torreson and James Appleby round off the 12 runners in classes A and B. This class this year already is in addition to classes A and B this year. We've got class D as well, but those cars in build. We'll talk more about that as the meeting progresses, but you can see the green flag being waved there at the back of the field, and the car's getting ready for their first start. John Langridge, that's the car in black with the green trim on the left of shot. It's his first ever racing start, and he doesn't make too good a job of it, because getting away very well indeed is Scott Baines, the white car with the checker on top, but beating him is David Elsom. In and around from David Elsom then, from second on the grid, goes round the outside into lead position. So we look at Michelle Edwards in 77, the blue car on the inside making good progress. Zena Cooper on the outside in black and yellow. And looks like everybody made a good clean start, and that's exactly what we want here. There is John Langridge. Now, has he got in front? He's in front of David. In fact, we've got Scott Baines. Scott Baines has gone through into lead position. There's Nick Tiley. Oh, and a spin! Michelle Edwards in 77 spins out. Nick Tiley managed to avoid that. He was on the outside line. The cars are down the Wellington straight for the first time. But look at John Langridge up at the front of the pack, going what looks like down the inside. It is the inside of the straight, but it's the outside line as they now come into the complex. And Langridge leads. After lap 1, he had pole position. He's had a very good time in qualifying this morning. There is 55, Ken Bateman, followed by Nick Barton in 88, who spins. Problems there as well for Nick Tiley. There must be fluid down there. Off goes 77, Michelle Edwards. It's all a little bit like dancing on ice there as they all, three of them, take a spin. So I can only assume that perhaps there's some fluid, and some of the drivers may be spinning in sympathy with others in avoidance, perhaps as well, getting a little bit caught out. But one driver who's not getting caught out is car number 7, John Langridge, who's away from Scott Baines in second position, then David Elsom in third place. Some of the drivers that have had the spin seem to have recovered well. We're on board with Zena Cooper. Lady race, you may remember, getting involved in all sorts of antics last year, and Zena's had problems with the car in the testing and qualifying today, but all seems well at the moment. And she there, I think, dicing with Claire Kemp in the 32 car. So we'll see what progress Zena can make. Zena has come up from Kent today to do her racing, and in the BizLinks Kent back car, racing in Class A, which is the SI 1800cc class. And here's some very close action on circuit now. Coming down the straight, Nick Barton leading this little gaggle. Was the 32 car of Claire Kemp that Zena was dicing with. And Claire Kemp goes for a Burton as well. So the entrance into the Brooklands complex definitely catching a few drivers out, making the marshals work hard. You saw the green flag being waved as Claire recovered. So some good prompt flagging from the marshals. There is Claire, who has rejoined, not too far behind Zena Cooper. So the two ladies in this race almost engaged in battle at the moment, as we look at the second position, not quite battle just yet, but second and third position cars. Scott Baines in the white car with the checker, leading David Elsom. Now, Scott Baines is leading the Class B runners, Class B, the 1400cc Zetec cars. So Scott doing really well. He was the pole sitter for Class B with Ken Bateman in car 55. That's another one of the white cars, if you see it, taking the second position in Class B and qualifying, and Nick Barton third in Class B. The Class A pole, of course, going to John Langridge from David Elsom, with Nick Tiley, the yellow car, third, and Zena Cooper down in fourth. So David Elsom closing up on Scott Baines. You would expect the Class A cars to be able to reel in the Class Bs as we go on board with Claire Kemp. Good view from her machine closing in on Michelle Edwards. Sorry, beg your pardon, Keith Chapman, isn't it, in 17. So we'll see whether Claire can catch up with Keith. I think it's a case that Keith's probably gone past after that spin, because we saw earlier on, Zena Cooper, who's up front of this battle. You can see the black and red car out front, who got ahead. We're down the main straight here and about to head in to what is turn 1 at Silverstone Copse Corner. Great onboard view, and then the run down towards Maggots, which is the left-hand kink before they go into the tight right-hander at Beckett's. Here's the second position scrap then between David Elsom in car number 40. Incidentally, his age as well, although he might not thank me for telling you all that on the television. Now he's looking at the inside line. We saw John Langridge take the outside line here earlier on, and that has worked, hasn't it? The power of the Class A car over the Class B car works, so that's a change for second position. Scott Baines still leading Class B, but now up into second position in the race is David Elsom, the man from Cambridge, and Scott Baines having a good go at him in 73. Around the complex they go. Brooklands, and then into Luffield, which sweeps round to Woodcote Corner, and then onto the main straight once again. Race leader, though, John Langridge, is well away at the moment, and this is his first ever car race. He's raced in karts, raced in Super 1 karting, and he's had a little bit of coaching coming to this championship. Pole position today by 0.7 of a second over David Elsom. And I think it's fair probably to make a little bit of a distinction between the two drivers, because John in relation to David. Oh, and a problem there for Keith Chapman. So Keith Chapman is out of the race, so disappointment for the man from Munden running in Class B. Now starting to make the differentiation between John Langridge and David Elsom. John Langridge, a younger driver, done lots of karting, and his first start, as we saw, was character building for him. But if you haven't done that before, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And of course many of these drivers, including David Elsom, Scott Baines, bags of experience at getting away, but John certainly made the racing experience count, and he is getting away, leading from David Elsom. We're now on board with Michelle Edwards, who is closing down on Claire Kemp. So both of these drivers had spins in the earlier part of the race. Michelle working really hard. You just really get the feel of it ain't easy going around the Silverstone circuit. You can see on the outside the today empty grandstands for what is the BRSCC club meeting, but I can tell you there are quite a few people here watching this meeting, and you'd be very welcome to join us at any of our competition car insurance Ford Fiesta Championship rounds or any BRSCC meetings over the course of the season. Silverstone really deceives on the number of people that were here, because it's a big wide open place, loads and loads of grandstand seating, but what you can't see is quite a few people watching on the inside, and quite a few people scattered around the circuit that have come to watch some superb racing today. Back then with John Langridge, car number 7 in lead position, building his race lead in this one. He's got the fastest lap too. We probably would have expected that after the dominant performance in qualifying, and his best lap so far is in the 1:12s. We've got David Elsom's lapping in the 1:12s as well, to be fair to him. And then we drop away a little bit. Nick Tiley is I haven't seen too much of Nick so far. He's in the yellow car if we see it. Through goes Scott Baines in third place. So Scotty is there as we look at 55, Ken Bateman. Then Zena Cooper in 75 goes through. Following Zena, it's Nick Barton. So Zena, I think, has put her engine maladies to rest and is running fairly well. Having said that, I think we've spoken a little bit too soon, because we're on board with Zena and she doesn't look too happy with the 75 car at the moment, the Bislink's Kent machine. Not doing too well. Here she comes around Beckett's corner, and then this is where she's really losing out, isn't it? Around Beckett's and then down onto the Wellington straight. And as you can see, the other cars coming past. I think Zena's going to probably have to call it a day here. Disappointment for her after a lot of work by the team to try and get that car ready for racing today. And let's hope they can get it out or get it fixed for race 2. But in the meantime, into the complex, not a very happy time indeed for Zena, who pops the indicators on. very fair to the other competitors, let the others know what's happening. A couple of cars still behind her, indicating that she was running pretty strongly in that race, so disappointment for her. She goes into pit lane and her race is over. Through goes Claire Kemp and Michelle Edwards, but there is John Langridge still leading this one. John Langridge away and down the road. He's pulling out quite a good lead at this stage of the race, got to be said. Still in second place is David Elsom, who is chasing. Now here comes John. Let's have a look and see how far David is back. David, the 40-year-old, as we mentioned, from Cambridge, racing in a twin team with Nick Tiley. Twin cam racing, the cam bit being the Cambridge bit, works on the newsletter, doesn't work so much when you say it. But two very good guys and enjoying their racing in their second season of Ford Fiesta racing. And came into the sport after doing some track days and running under the Daniels Motorsport banner. And here is Nick, talk of the devil. So Nick having a good run and trying to close in on the cars in front after his spin earlier on. He's coming down past the BRDC stand, which is just on your right there, and into the complex. This is where he had the moment earlier on. He was telling me that last year he spun at Copse, which is the first corner, and this year he's managed to spin a later part of the lap. Hopefully next time we're at Silverstone he'll manage it without a spin, but he's a very good guy, produces a team newsletter as well, which keeps everybody informed.
With so much racing going on in the world, you'd have to be a four-headed monster to keep up with it all. Luckily, we have that. Join Peter Keane, Bill Wood, Errol Tucker, and their guest driver analyst each week for an opinionated look at the news coming out of the racing world. Remember, it's GoRacingTV.com for all your racing and video needs.
So Nick Tiley starting to close in on the Michelle Edwards-Claire Kemp battle that's going on down the road. Down towards Copse. You can see him really closing up on these cars now, and surely just a matter of time before he gets on with them. Strikes a good pose, doesn't he, does Nick, in the racing seat. Who's up again? Now heading down towards Maggot's corner. Little left-hand kink which they go through, then it goes round to the right and they continue going round to the right at Beckett's. There is Claire Kemp in the 32 car. Claire, who comes from Ely in Cambridgeshire, entered by ASG Midlands Limited, independent Dyson vacuum cleaner company. So good plug for them. And Michelle Edwards looking down the inside, side by side they are. Claire Kemp looks like she's going to be passed, and Michelle Edwards in the 77 car nips through. That is for sixth position. So over to sixth position, one of the floppy, what they call the floppy markers, has just gone for a Burton. Now down behind them is still Nick Tiley, who is running in Class A. We've got other class runners we haven't mentioned. William Torreson in car number 31, newcomer to racing, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see William later on in the race as well. But Nick Tiley is starting really to close in on this battle. So Claire Kemp, look how much he's closed up as they come down to Copse corner. Claire Kemp looking for a wider line into Copse. That may carry a little bit more speed for her down towards Maggot's, but I don't think she's close enough to challenge Michelle Edwards. Now here comes Nick Tiley. He's in the faster car, he's in the Class A car, so he's got 400cc's more under his bonnet. Closing up, taking his time, thinking about how he's going to go through. But at the moment there isn't quite room, and as you can see from this shot, side on, he's actually 3 or 4 lengths behind at the moment. Now this may be where he can power past. He's on the Wellington straight, as you can see, keeping in the middle of the track. The other two cars, the Class B cars, go to the outside line, and Nick Tiley's going to go through on the inside to take, first of all, 7th position. So Tiley up into 7th place. That's not a change in class position for either of those. Claire running in Class B, Nick running in Class A, but Nick up into 7th position and now challenging for 6 on the road. And that's one of the beauties of this particular championship, with the 4 different classes, 3 represented this weekend. Class C with a huge entry as Nick now powers his way around the outside onto the main straight. So outside line for Nick, and he's through into 6th position. His next target's go there, and that's the view from Michelle Edwards' car as Nick Tiley powers his way around the outside. So great manoeuvre then by Nick Tiley up into 6th place. And I was starting to say the beauty of this championship, really, the multi-class, because you've got the bigger Class A cars, which will qualify typically in front of the Class Bs. You might have some lesser experienced Class A drivers, or indeed those having problems, as we saw Zena Cooper having engine problems, who start further back, and they get in the mix with the slower Class B cars, or the faster of the Class B cars. And it means that although you're not racing for class position, you're racing for overall position with other cars. So plenty of action to be had for aspiring drivers. And what we're seeing in the Competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Championship is a mixture of the drivers like Nick Tiley, David Elsom, who are in their 40s, racing with some younger drivers like John Langridge coming up, William Torreson, and in the Class C we've got a great deal of young drivers who are looking to cut their teeth in saloon car racing. This is very much a breeding ground for touring car drivers of tomorrow. So now we can see how far Nick Tiley has got ahead of Michelle Edwards. Claire Kemp trying to close down on him at the moment, but Nick pretty happy in 45 at the moment. Won't be happy with the first lap shenanigans, but certainly in terms of recovery drive, he's got his head down since then, got that problem out of the way, out of his mind. He's trying to close in on Nick Barton in the 88 car. As we said, he's running in 5th position. Ahead of Nick, it's Ken Bateman. And then the top trio, pretty much as they were from the start. John Langridge leading, David Elsom in 2nd position, Scott Baines leading and winning Class B at the moment. Ken Bateman in Class B, so too is Nick Barton. So there is a chance that Nick Tiley might be able to close in, but he did lose a lot of ground earlier on. So Barton down into the complex once again. Michelle Edwards in 77, the man from Chelsfield in the Cornex Garage, Sevenoaks and District Motor Club entered car. Car number 77, remember seeing him racing hard last year. And not actually losing too much ground at the moment on Nick Tiley. Here's the view from Michelle's car. Let's hope this isn't a portent of something nasty happening as we have with Zena Cooper. Just the 3 retirements so far in the race. James Appleby, Keith Chapman and Zena Cooper. We saw 2 of those. And Michelle Edwards looking okay at the moment on the this very fast sweeping Silverstone circuit. Very evocative name, isn't it, to see on the fixture list of any championship. The drivers last year, we had some cracking racing here last year, which was, I seem to remember, around about mid-season, but we're in the first round of the year with new drivers bedding themselves in with cars, and at the moment the position's fairly settled. As you look in front there, Nick Tiley just going under the bridge that brings the cars into and indeed out of the racing paddock here at Silverstone. Down the straight, past the BRDC centre once again, into the braking zone, sharp left-hander. This is where we think there might have been some fluid earlier on in the race, certainly seems to have gone now. And out of the complex. Now, that's the car we were looking at from the onboard, the blue 77 car. And you can see why Michelle Edwards was working hard, because he's coming under pressure from the another Cambridgeshire-based driver, Claire Kemp, who is trying everything she can think of to try and get past. Claire, a relative newcomer, as indicated by the black cross on the yellow square on the back of the car. And keeping Michelle very honest at the moment. Down the home straight into Copse Corner they go again. We're into the later stages of the race. I can tell you back at the sharp end that David Elsom is closing in a little bit on the race leader. So Elsom was quite a long way behind Langridge. It doesn't look like he's closing in from where we are because we can't see him, but that is the race leader who's posted now. He's the only driver to get into the 111, so 111.937 for John Langridge, who looks to me like he's going to win his first ever car race. So a graduate from karting, perhaps a name to watch for saloon car racing in the future. He is doing such a fantastic job. And on his last lap, coming up to possibly lap the Michelle Edwards-Claire Kemp battle. He's already managed to pop a lap on William Torreson. So into the gap's only about just around 2 seconds between John Langridge and David Elsom. It was more than that earlier on in the race. So Elsom has worked hard and tried to close down. In fact, you can see David Elsom really starting to reel him in. So I don't think there's going to be enough time to do anything about John Langridge, who is going to have a perfect race here at his pole position. Wasn't a perfect start for him, but he got back into the lead by the end of lap 1. He takes the win. Langridge wins. David Elsom in second position. Some way back in third place will be Scott Baines, who takes Class B honours. Langridge wins A then from David Elsom. Scott Baines in third, then Ken Bateman fourth. Nick Barton takes fifth, and Nicholas Tiley in sixth position takes the third podium in Class A. Michelle Edwards is seventh from Claire Kemp, and William Torreson comes home in ninth.
Nick, a fantastic first race here at Silverstone this morning for you. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was really good, quite a good result. Started off quite well, a bit of a slide round into the complex. I thought I was going to have a spin, but luckily I managed to keep it under control. And then after that it did get a bit boring, but it was quite a steady pace with Keith Chapman, Ken Chapman. And just closed him a little bit, then he'd pull away and then close in. And other than that, it was just try and get faster and faster, and luckily managed to stay on the back of him. And it did up in the third, which is the best result so far, so very happy.
Good start to the season, and I know you've been working hard over the winter to get the car up to feeling comfortable for yourself. What have you done to make the car different?
To be honest, we haven't really done much with the car setup wise. It's just getting me more experience in the car. I've done several track days, a few test days. It's just all experience, helped a lot, and hopefully we should have a few more good results this year.
Is there anything you're looking forward to in this afternoon's race? Do you think you can improve on a third place?
Yeah, I think second's definitely achievable. Just got to get a good start and stay out of trouble, and then see how it goes from there.
Well, thank you for speaking to us, and good luck for this afternoon.
Cheers.
Zena, an unfortunate race for you this morning here at Silverstone. What happened?
Well, we were testing on Friday, and unfortunately the engine went, so we had a frantic evening getting parts and rebuilding the car, and to be honest we didn't think we were going to get out, but miraculously we got out for qualifying, and yeah, the car seemed to be running quite well. We sort of went around quite easy, bedded the engine in a little bit and it was fine, qualified 6th overall, and yeah, it came to today, it was running really well, and then the next thing you know, engine went again, and yeah, had to pull into the pits and retire, unfortunately.
That's a shame, because that was probably your best running in the series.
Yeah, so far I've definitely not been running that high up. I think that was my highest qualifying grid, and yeah, was running third in class and could see the others in front of me, so yeah.
So what are your options between now and Snetterton?
Well, we need to find a new engine basically, so yeah, we're running around trying to see what we can do, because we've only got 2 weeks between now and then, but yeah, hopefully we'll get a new engine, and I will be out for that race.
So if there's anyone out there that's got a spare 1.8 engine for a Fiesta...
Yes, they're quite specific, they don't really make them anymore, so yeah, if anyone's got a line about that actually works, then yeah, give me a call, that'd be great.
Well, hopefully we'll see you out in a couple of weeks at Snetterton, and we wish you all the best of trying to find a new engine.
Excellent, thanks very much.
Cheers. Claire, Scott, this is going to be an interesting season for you two, because I think it's probably the first time in a long while we've had a couple in the Fiesta series.
Yeah, I've just come out of karting, so we took the decision that I'd join Scott racing the cars this year. It saved being out every weekend, because if I was racing he wasn't, and vice versa. So yeah, it made sense for us wanting to race cars. Here we are, thought I'd give him a run for his money.
And Scott, a very good opening round for you. Class win, that's not bad, is it?
No, it was good to start like that. You've just got to keep it going really, haven't we, for the rest of the year. Had a bit of bad luck last year, as you know, finishing up on my roof, but car's rebuilt again. Just try and maintain the advantage that we've got in a minute really.
State your desires.
Speed, adrenaline, competition.
Calculating. Result in 3, 2, 1. The National Auto Sport Association. Start here.
Here's the grid for race 2. David Elsom and John Langridge on the front row, with Scott Baines and Ken Bateman on row 2. Nick Barton and Nick Tiley on row 3. Nick Tiley with hopefully not so much chasing to do. Then it's Michelle Edwards and Claire Kemp, William Torreson and Zena Cooper. Zena not starting this one, unfortunately. Keith Chapman and James Appleby complete the grid. Well, as we mentioned, Zena Cooper still here and watching the racing, but her engine gave up the ghost. She'll be hoping to get fit for the second round of the season, which takes place at Snetterton in a couple of weeks' time. So we look forward to seeing Zena's return to the championship. Green flag at the back. Now you can see on the outside line it's the race winner from race 1, the black and green car of John Langridge. Then on the inside, David Elsom. Langridge gets away a little bit better than he did in race number 1, but it's still not perfect because up into lead position goes David Elsom, the Cambridgeshire racer. Scott Baines is there in 3rd place. Then it's Ken Bateman in 4th position. Good clean getaway from them all, got to say. Really good stuff. William Torreson in the white 31 car makes a good start too. So our second race of the weekend. And John Langridge challenging for lead position, but David Elsom leads this one. Scott Baines leads Class B. He's in 3rd place. There's Michelle Edwards in 77. Michelle engaged in battle with Claire Kemp. Then down behind them, it's Keith Chapman in the red 17 car. And everyone getting away very, very well indeed. We've got James Appleby starting in this one as well, car number 27. But Langridge going down the inside for the lead. John Langridge, pole sitter, goes down the inside of David Elsom. Good, clean, fair racing from those two. Both, as you can see, newcomers to car racing, although Langridge, as we mentioned in race 1, bags of kart racing experience. And that was very clean. There's sometimes a temptation for the younger kart racers to maybe get involved in a bit of bumping and boring, but John showing the utmost respect there for his fellow competitors and his own machinery as well. A good clean manoeuvre, great racing from David Elsom as well, who I think knew that John was a little bit faster. Now he looks at the inside line, does Elsom in car number 40, and thinks about trying to get a bit closer, but Langridge looks like he's going to try and repeat what he did in race 1, which is to, once he's in front, get away and see what sort of a gap that he can pull. Scotty Baines is still there in 3rd place. Nick Tiley is 4th. So Nick Tiley, after a good recovery drive in the first race of the day, doesn't have so much work to do in this one, starting, or having got himself up into 4th place. Then it's Ken Bateman in white and red trim down behind them, but we're with John Langridge and David Elsom, the leading pair. This is where Langridge took the lead on lap 1 into Brooklands, then around into Luffield. Silverstone does tend to come in for a little bit of stick from some club drivers, saying it's a little bit flat and straight, but it's a good mix of corners really. The complex in particular, a very interesting part of the circuit, and for my money the flick round to Maggot's corner, the left, and then the right around Brooklands is pretty good, and I think it's a great place to come and race, and certainly, as I said in race 1, a really evocative name to have on the race schedule for the year. So through goes Scott Baines. There is Nick Tiley. Ken Bateman goes through. Then Nick Barton, Michelle Edwards, and a battle on here between Keith Chapman and Claire Kemp. Claire on the outside line goes a little bit over the rumble strips there. Not as far as they were doing on the touring cars last year. I've got to say, these drivers a little bit better behaved. Clark, of course, certainly would have read the riot act to the drivers about which bits of circuit to use and how far you can go. Generally, as far as the curbs are concerned, you can put a couple of wheels over the curb, but if the whole car goes over, then you might be in trouble. You'd be under scrutiny from the officials. The officials incidentally have closed circuit television. They can see all round the track, unlike most of the spectators here. Silverstone not the greatest place to come and spectate, because you only tend to see the cars for a little bit of each lap. And each lap here for the Fiestas, we're looking at about 1 minute 15, well, up to 1 minute 15. But the officials get a good view, as we said, on closed circuit television, so they know what's going on around the circuit and would be able to penalise drivers accordingly. So if anyone persistently put all 4 wheels over the curbs, then they would come in, they'd probably get a stop-go penalty or maybe 10 seconds added to their race time, which would drop them down the order. But I don't think any of that's going to happen today, because these guys and girls really, or girl we should say now, because we've just got the one lady racer remaining so far in the A's and B's, are all behaving themselves. Probably a good idea to tell you about the class structure that we've got in the Competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Championship. It's a 3-class structure in racing this weekend. We've got A, B, C and D classes. Classes Class A is for the 130 brake horsepower 1800 SI. Class B, the 1400cc Zetec, which has 90 brake horsepower. And we've got Class C, which we've already seen in the show as we look at this continuing battle between Michelle Edwards and Keith Chapman. But due to join the Class A's and B's later on in the season is Class D, which is the new Mark 7 Fiesta, producing 130 brake horsepower. So we'll expect to see one or maybe two of those cars, which are currently in build, joining us later on. And in terms of power, they'll be should be up with the leading Class A cars. It'll be interesting to see how well they handle, but certainly looking forward to seeing those. And good thinking by the organisers getting the newer shapes in, as the older shapes, of course, the parts get harder to get over the years. Now look at John Langridge. He's getting away from David Elsom, but I don't think at the moment it's at the same rate that we saw in race 1. The lap times are a shade slower than they were earlier in the day, but John Langridge getting his head down from David Elsom. Then Scott Baines in third position. Scott incidentally taking fastest lap in Class B. And here's the view from William Torreson in car number 31. Good to see William racing with us, the young student who comes from Preston. He's actually Norwegian by birth, studying motorsport engineering up in Lancashire, and we hope to see a lot more of William over the course of the season. And he's running pretty well at the moment. That's the Claire Kemp battle in front. We've seemed to have seen quite a lot of the Michelle Edwards Claire Kemp battle from onboards, and William trying to close in on them. Good view from his car, another newcomer to car racing, and the youngster coming through Luffield and trying to close down on those. He's actually made a lot of progress from race 1. He's racing in Class A, so he's got a little bit more power to play with. And this is what I was saying about the class structure. If you're a newcomer, then obviously you wouldn't expect a newcomer in Class A to be up there battling with the likes of John Langridge, David Elsom, who've got the experience. But the one thing that William can do is dice with and chase the Class B cars. So you've always got somebody that you can race against in these machines. And there goes William through the back of shot. This is the battle that he's chasing. Michelle Edwards in 77, then Keith Chapman in the red 17 car, and Claire Kemp is down behind them. Claire again trying to have a look here, and I think he's had a problem possibly for Keith Chapman. He moves over, and Claire Kemp looking to the outside line as they go down to Wellington Straight. We switch cameras, and Claire on the outside line. Well, just hanging on to it at the moment is Keith Chapman in his car. All of these three cars running in Class B. Scott Baines leading Class B at the moment from Ken Bateman. Nick Barton's just gone through shot. He's third, so this is the battle for fourth position in Class B. Michelle Edwards hanging on to that fourth position at the moment. Claire Kemp dropping away just a little bit on that lap. Into Cobb's Corner they go, and Edwards looking pretty good at the moment. Keith Chapman we saw drop a little bit of ground to Claire Kemp on the previous lap. Claire still trying to close the gap on those two. There is the William Torreson car, goes through the striped Class A car. These three, probably the closest battle on circuit, and we'll see whether Claire can manage to make a move here on the red Keith Chapman car. Keith in turn trying to close up on Michelle Edwards. Clear circuit here as we wait for the leader to come through. There is John Langridge. He certainly hasn't opened up, I don't think, as big a gap as he did in the earlier race, but that was clawed back last time by David Elsom. Whether Elsom's going to be able to get his car and his driving to come on song in the closing stages of this one remains to be seen. But at the moment, Langridge is certainly the class of the field. He's in the low 1 minute 12s. David Elsom in the mid 1 minute 12. So trying to fight back where he can, but just doesn't seem to have the pace to live with the newcomer at the moment. And Langridge, is it going to be a perfect weekend for him? It was pole position, race win, fastest lap in race number 1. Same too for Scott Baines in Class B. So championship wise, those two are going to be level on points. If you're wondering what's happened to the battle for third place. I tell you, Scott Baines is still there in third position and leading Class B, still ahead of Nick Tiley. Nick not seemingly be able to get closer, but this three-way scrap for fourth in Class B seems to be coming to a head, and it looks like Chapman now has got through. So Keith Chapman up into fourth position. Michelle Edwards drops down. Then it's Claire Kemp, followed by William Torreson in 31. I'm sorry, I miscalled that. I said that William was running in the striped car. It's William in the all-white car. So apologies to William for that. Now we go on board with him, and this is the purpose of this shot, is to show you that William's closed in on them. So Class A car chasing 3 Class B cars at the moment. Claire Kemp down behind them. Let's see whether William can make any more progress as he comes out of Woodcote onto the pit straight and down towards Copse Corner, across the grid lines. So into Copse Corner we go, working hard at the wheel, and Keith Chapman still running fourth in class in the red car out front, the Class B cars. Through Maggots they go, and you can see Michelle Edwards having a challenge as well. Wide line for Edwards there. Is he going to be able to get a little bit more momentum on the early part of the Wellington straight? They look at the 2 cars in front, so out of Beckett's they go. Now onto the straight.
The club, an amateur racer. Here at GoRacingTV, we salute you. And we want to give you all the tools and info to compete with the best. Find out how to do it all from your own garage by watching our Club Racer and Autocrosser shows. GoRacingTV.com, supplying all your video racing needs.
Claire Kemp still 6 in Class B. Now this is where the power of William Torreson's car should count, but is he going to get into a position where he can overtake? Under the bridge, side by side it is for fourth, and look at that, Keith Chapman still on the inside line. He takes the line that he wants. He's got the track position, lifts the wheel in spectacular style as he goes into Brooklands. Brake lights on into Luffield, and that's good racing between him and Edwards. Those two really having a good dice there, and Claire Kemp watching and learning. Down behind them, William Torreson. So Torreson trying to close in, but of course one thing he doesn't want to do is get in and spoil the battle. He does want to make up position himself. But those two, I think, very much enjoying themselves. Here's Scott Baines, leader of Class B, third in the race, ahead of Nick Tiley. You can see Nick in the potentially faster Class A car, not able to do a huge amount about closing in at the moment. And this is the view from Nick's car. Nick raced with us last year, as we said. One of the 2 drivers from Cambridge, paired up with David Elsom. Also 40 years of age, trying to close down on Scott Baines. Scott Baines, though, as we know from last year, very much a top pilot in Class B. Took 4 wins in 2010, 3 fastest laps, 2 pole positions, and certainly knows how to pedal one of those Fiestas around the circuit. But Nick Tiley trying to close in. I wonder if Tiley's car perhaps not as on par as it should be this weekend. Daniels Motorsport running 13 cars. I gather it's a new record for them this weekend. 13 cars in the entire Ford Fiesta paddock being prepared and run by them this weekend. There is Nick Tiley in 45, followed by Ken Bateman in 55. So there's Ken. There's Nick Barton in 88, the blue and orange car with the white bumper at the back. They are second and third in Class B at the moment, so nice to see the other potential podium position holders in Class B, and a bit of a scrap developing between these two because Bateman coming under pressure. Barton looks to the outside line there as they head towards Beckett's, into Beckett's corner now. Nick Barton, if he lines himself up properly, may be able to get a little bit of a toe and slingshot out and have a look down the inside as they go into Brooklands. Very close battle with those. So down the straight, Barton, I think, if anything, has maybe lost a little bit of ground. The 55 car of Ken Bateman breaking the toe down into the Brooklands corner they go. Nick Tiley in front of them could well be a potential target. Guessing that Ken Bateman will be doing all he can to try and close in on that car. These machines running 5th and 6th on the road, but 2nd and 3rd in class. So they reel off another lap. Race format for the weekends with the Fiestas. Where we can, we have testing and qualifying on day 1 of the meeting, which is normally a Saturday, and then the 2 races for each of the classes on a Sunday, and the races of a 20-minute duration, so track time pretty much guaranteed as we go back on board with the young Norwegian driver William Torresen. He's definitely closed in on Claire Kemp, but what we're looking at now is the battle between Michelle Edwards and Keith Chapman in red. Chapman still holding sway in 4th position in class, and those 3 have really been tied together. Torresen just goes a little bit wide there, rattles the curves. That's going to lose him a bit of momentum as he comes down the straight. And under the bridge, so Michelle Edwards starting to put pressure on Keith Chapman. He's going for the outside line. I don't think he's going to be able to sweep around the outside. Drops back just a little bit, but it may give him a tad more momentum in the first part of the Brooklands complex. No, he can't manage to carry that through and look down the inside, which is what I thought he might do. And he's got to be careful, because if he goes wide too many times, then it's going to allow Claire Kemp to pop up onto the inside and take 5th position in class. At the moment she's running 6th, but the terrific view that we've got from William Torresen, who's behaving himself very well indeed. Now Keith Chapman is definitely coming under pressure from Michelle Edwards, who's looking on the outside line. Doesn't work for Michelle, but certainly some really good attacking stuff going on. Claire Kemp is starting to have a look as well and looks down the inside line. So Claire Kemp looking for 5th in class here, side by side with Michelle Edwards. Keith Chapman out front. Now through Maggot's corner they go. Can Claire Kemp make this one stick? Yes, I think she can. She's through. Claire Kemp goes through on the inside of Michelle Edwards. So the man from Kent overtaken by the young lady from Ely. William Torresen just can't wait to join the party here as well. Now he should in theory close up on the straight, but a great overtaking manoeuvre there by Claire Kemp. Edwards wants the position back, goes to the outside line, loves the outside line sweep in, and surely he's going to go through. They're still side by side. Now has he got his nose in front? Kemp's going to hold on the inside line, still side by side. Great driving from Claire Kemp to hang on to 5th position in class, and a great view from William Torresen, who'll be learning from watching that. Now Claire goes a little bit wide on the exit of Luffield, and this could allow Edwards to go back up the inside. All this is great news for Keith Chapman in the red car in front, who will look in his mirrors and see the 2 cars squabbling behind him. In theory, they will slow each other up and allow him maybe to move clear. There is Nick Barton running 3rd in Class B. Barton right on the case now of Ken Bateman. So although we haven't seen too many place changes, there's been some real harrying and hounding going on down the field. There is Nick Tiley, who goes through in 4th position overall in the race. This is the scrap for 2nd in Class B. Ken Bateman, and we've just had to move away for a moment from the other scrap to see what's going on here. Bateman looks as though things are relatively under control, but Nicholas Barton closer than he was a couple of laps ago. I think the gap maybe gone out a little bit now. Bateman seems to have found a little bit more pace, and down into the complex they go once again. Lift the wheel as they turn in. Nick Tiley, I'll tell you what, they're closer to Nick Tiley as well, so Nick might be looking in his mirrors very, very shortly. The 4th place man, the yellow car, who we see there. So Tiley 4th overall, still John Langridge leading from David Elsom and Scott Baines, and I can tell you that Langridge is getting away. So here they come then. Still Keith Chapman from Claire Kemp. Brilliant bit of overtaking from Claire Kemp. This one seems to have settled down just a little bit now. Michelle Edwards, then William Torresen. I think James Appleby in the mix as well. So after a couple of frantic laps, things are starting to settle down in the closing stages of the race, and it looks like John Langridge, he's got fastest lap again on the 11th lap of the race, a 1 minute 12.143, 1 minute 12.5 for David Elsom, but we're looking at the 77 car of Michelle Edwards, the blue machine there being chased by William Torresen. Claire Kemp in the mix as well. and hanging on. Now let's see what Torreson taking a slightly wider line here. James Appleby is there at the back in the 27 car. Torreson gets closer to Edwards, but just can't at the moment do anything about Edwards. James Appleby at the back of the pack, man from Ripon, newcomer to the championship as well. Very welcome newcomer. There are hire cars available if you're watching this and thinking you fancy having a go. So check out the website www.fordracing.eu. And another innovation we've got coming in later in the season is Fiesta Junior Racing. So we'll be seeing youngsters out as well in a limited campaign later in the season. We'll be covering those too. Still going on then, Keith Chapman leading, and it's almost 3 wide then for 4th position in Class B. But out front, this guy has had a superb opening weekend, and he's been so far ahead. He hasn't done himself really too many favours in terms of race coverage, but I can tell you that John Langridge, the man from Bodiam, is going to take a second win, 2 wins out of 2 on his motor racing debut, his car racing debut, the ex-Carter. It's been superb for him. Pole position, 2 wins, 2 fastest laps thus far. Back behind him is David Elsom, who's going to take the podium again. He'll be pleased with the podium, David Elsom, but wondering what he can do to reel in John Langridge, who takes his second win of the day. Superb opening to the campaign for him. David Elsom takes second position. He is quite a few seconds down, unfortunately. Scott Baines wins Class B again and takes third. Confirmation of that, Nick Tiley, the last podium man in Class A. Then it's Ken Bateman, 5th position from Nick Barton, who finishes in 6th. Keith Chapman in 7th, ahead of William Torreson. Then Claire Kemp, Michelle Edwards, James Appleby coming home in 11th.
John, another lights to flag victory. This is going to be a demon start for you in car racing.
Well, it's a good start with the career, but not a good start on track, because I was, again, didn't actually get away that well. I had to make another move to get into the lead, but after that I was kept more than honest, I have to say, and really had to dig deep to pull out some good lap times to pull away a bit of a gap, pushing all the way really.
2 car races under your belt now. Do you feel more confident going into some of the other tracks we've got later this year?
Yeah, I'd say so. We've been to Brands and Linden Hill before, so that they should be hopefully good weekends. But Snetterton next week, it's a tricky circuit since they've done the extension. There's a lot of corners there to learn in not very much time, so it'll be tough. But hopefully we'll be there to give it our all.
Well, it's a great start to the season. Well done, and thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Scott, another win. That's a good start to your 2011 campaign.
Yeah, just what we needed really. A good start, just beat Ken to the first corner. Lucky enough, a couple of the other 1300s got in the way, and then really just controlled it from there really.
Moving on from this, what are your thoughts going to Snetterton?
Same again really, if we can. Hopefully there'll be a couple more people back in the circuit by then. Yeah, we'll just try to do the same again really.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on both of your victories today, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you. Yeah.